closing deals to opening minds. This is the Mr. Deed Podcast. I'm Omar Andreasen, and we're about to get real about real estate, success, and the grit that it takes to build your best life. Let's dive on in. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Mr. Deed Podcast Show. My name is Omar Andreasen, aka Mr. Deed, and today we actually have Mr. Tim Street with us. He's actually a former top producing real estate agent and the founder of Foolproof FSBO, also known as FSBO, a home selling education and coaching platform. He has completed hundreds of residential real estate transactions during his career and now specializes in guiding homeowners through for sale by owner sales. Tim, thank you so much for joining us on the show, brother.
And Omar, I appreciate it, dude. Thank you so much for having me on. It's such a thrill to be here and cool to finally meet you. And thanks to your audience for putting up with me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell me, before we get into some other questions, what made you want to really just focus in on FSBOs and kind of educate the consumer about FSBOs? What was it that kind of fired you up about that?
It's interesting. I had a very odd way of getting here. Long and short of it right now, if I had to call myself anything, I'm a coach, but I'm also a real estate investor. I have a very small portfolio of short-term rentals down here in Florida. And so part of acquiring that, I got my real estate license just because I didn't feel like the real estate agents I was working with were doing a great job negotiating on my behalf. And so I went and got my own license, and there I was. After acquiring some properties on my own and seeing how it all worked and learning, I decided, heck, I ran sales teams for startup companies in the past. I've done some pretty cool stuff. So I was like, I could maybe make a run at being a real estate agent. So next thing I know, my wife, Liz, and I, we partner up, we start running the business, and dang, we were pretty darn good at it. Which surprised us all. So we ended up doing pretty well at it. And I'm the type of guy, you give me an inch, I'm going to take a mile. So if I can do a little bit of success, I'm going to figure out what it is that I can completely hack this program. And so I was on my last listing appointment I ever took. And what really got me was I was sitting across from an older couple, very sweet, retired, and they were obviously downsizing. That was it for them. They didn't have any more kids. And the person before me who went in there did something that we call buying the listing, which is their house is $400,000 maybe on a good day. And he told this couple, hey, I can get you $450 because I have a big social media following and I take drone photos. And unfortunately, and I could see it in these folks' eyes, they were going to go for it. I just knew it. And it puts me in a bad position because I'm sure I'm going to disappoint you with the truth as opposed to comforting you with a lie. But at the same point, I don't want to shatter people's dreams. And so I gave him my best song and dance about what the difference is between what we want and what can really happen. But at the end of the day, I knew I wasn't getting that listing. And on the drive home, I had a kind of a dark thought. And it was basically, look, if I got to get to the next level in this business by maybe blurring the ethics a bit, blurring the truth, telling people what they want to hear instead of what the truth is, I could do that. I could do that just as good as the next guy. And I almost became physically ill when I realized the deal I just made with the devil in my head. Because I was like, what the hell kind of man are you? What, are you seriously that kind of person? And so I realized, and I know this about myself, do not tempt me. What does the Bible say? You run from temptation, you don't walk from it. Man, I ran from it. I said, forget it. I'm done. So from that day forward, I just knew, I was like, it's far too easy to be tempted to go to that other side. And I said, I'm just going to give it all away. So that's when I built Foolproof FSBO. I basically took my tools, all the things that I did where, I teach people how to get above asking price on their home. I teach them how to get it under contract in the first weekend. All these tricks that I did for my clients and got them great results, I now give away for free. Anybody who watches my content, I teach you step by step how to do this the right way. And I feel a lot better about it this way. I feel like I can look at myself in the mirror and kind of who I see who's looking back, even though he looks older every day. And so that's what brought me here.
I appreciate that story. And actually, I had the same situation, but in reverse, because I was the first listing agent to meet with this couple at one point, and they wanted to sell for $50,000 or $70,000 over at what everything else was asking. I said, listen, I'll be very honest with you. I said, that's just not going to happen. And then when I called back just to follow up with them, they said, we decided not to go with you because you were too honest with us.
Oh my gosh, Omar, are you kidding me?
I'm like, what? I said, what? Did you just say I was too honest for you? I'm like, okay. I said, you know what? it is what it is. Don't worry about it. Next thing I know, 2 months later, guess who they're calling? Me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're calling me
100%.
because
Yeah, they
and
need a little bit of honesty at this point. Their house has been sitting there collecting moths, and all of a sudden, Mr. Honest seems like a pretty doggone good option at this point.
yeah, you know what? It just and to all the real estate agents listening out there, you hit something that's spot on because you give so many other real estate agents bad names. At the end of the day, and especially the consumer now is a lot more savvy because they can do a lot of research with all the internet and all the different tools and tricks that are out there now that they can find. But still, when it comes, let's say, to someone older, I think one of the things I tell my team is, listen, no matter what, someone's always going to be able to smell your BS. So when you go in, be honest from day one, be upfront, and if you get the business, great. If you don't, okay. Then at least you had a face to face and you periodically check in on them, make sure everything's okay, because you never know how that's going to turn around later.
Yeah, we certainly have a reputation challenge, and some of it is earned. But here's what people don't understand is, yeah, everybody likes to kick on real estate agents and this, that, and the other thing. And I certainly hope that, my story isn't seen as typical because it's not. The reality is some of the best, my wife is literally the best human being I've ever met in my life. She has two faults. She makes terrible relationship decisions and she's a terrible judge of character. That's why she's with me. Other than that, she's perfect. But like I got a buddy up in Detroit, Robert Neely. He literally puts backpacks together for poor school kids who can't afford. These are some of the agents I've worked with are there's no like kind of middle ground. They're either the best people I've ever met or people I wouldn't necessarily trust with my wallet. But it's funny because everybody likes to focus on the bottom 10%. Man, I'm a Marine and I think that's a great organization. I'm here to tell you there's a bottom 10% to that organization too. There's a bottom 10% to every organization. I think we got to be really careful that we don't judge the reputation of the whole just by focusing on what a few less than optimal folks did.
100%. And two things. Number one, thank you for your service. And you
Oh
guys just had a
gosh.
birthday not too long ago.
Yeah,
So happy
man.
birthday. There
Thank you,
you go.
sir. I appreciate it. And don't
You're
thank me.
welcome.
Thank you for paying the bills.
No, I thank you guys for protecting us. So let's dive into a little bit now. Let's say, okay, I'm a FSBO. I don't want to use a real estate agent for whatever reason. Maybe I just don't want to use a real estate agent right now. What is your advice when it comes to prepping a home to sell without overspending?
Oh man, that's such a great question because that's what people tend to do. One of the big challenges that you're going to find in this space, and again, I'm gonna do the Omar here, and I'm gonna be too honest, and
I
I'm gonna
love
say,
that.
listen, if you're selling for sale by owner, these are real statistics. These aren't just made up because I want to see you succeed. But 90% of you are going to fail. That's a stat that's legit. And for those of you who quote unquote succeed, you're going to get less money, about 11% less than if you had sold with a full service agent. Okay, so that's it right there. That's reality. If you tried to wing this, if you go to YouTube University or listen to advice from Uncle Bob, who was a broker in Des Moines back in the 70s, and think you're going to compete with today's 2025 real estate agents, man, I got another thing coming for you. First of all, the real estate agents today, where they have a ton of value, is they know the answers to things like Omar just asked. What do you do? When I advise my people, oh, and by the way, my people have nowhere near that failure rate, just FYI. But anyway, when I advise my people on how to get above asking price for their home, like I used to get for my clients when I was representing them, it comes down to three big buckets. Number one, can a handyman fix it? If they can do it, man, fix that all day long. Is it toward the end of its useful life, but still works okay? Maybe we're going to be baking that into the price of the home because at the end of the day, this is a comparison game. We have to make home A compete with home B. And if it doesn't, there's going to be a price variation on that. Now, the third bucket, and this is where people really get in trouble, is they'll say, I've had these 1970s kitchen cabinets in here since the house was built. I need to do a kitchen remodel. Buddy, I've got news for you. The ROI on that kitchen remodel is not only bad, it's negative because the person who's going to walk in there is going to look at your freshly remodeled kitchen and be like, holy crap, this is terrible. I never would have done this. Next. Whereas if they see a 1970s kitchen cabinets, of course they're going to replace it, but that's okay. It goes without saying. And now they see your home as a blank canvas that they can paint instead of having to undo all of the modifications that you've made that you think, don't remodel bathrooms, don't remodel kitchens. A lot of that stuff, unless you're just doing it because you love to do it, you're not going to get an ROI on that. To me, what I've seen, the best ROI you could get is by making sure the house is clean, safe, serviceable. There's no loose cabinet knobs. All the light switches work. There's no holes in the wall where the door opened in the wall. That kind of stuff all day long. You get a great ROI by putting your money into those kind of fixes.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I remember we were selling our very first house that we bought. And what I did, I actually went in and I had my buddy come in and do a home inspection on the property. And then I'm like,
Yes.
all right, these are all things that I could fix. So I literally went in there between me and my handyman. We had a pool. So we went in and we sealed all the cracks. I repainted the pool deck. I repainted the driveway. I pretty much had that thing spotless when we put it on the contract on July 4th. The inspector for the buyer said, looked at my wife and said, "Why is this home in such good detail right now? What's going on?" She said, "Mine's a real estate agent." He goes, "Ah, okay." So and mind you, it was an older home in the
Yep.
80s, but as far as the little small details, like you said, we went ahead and we attacked those because they were inexpensive, but it's something about that naked eye, because when that naked eye sees something that, let's say, looks a little bit rotten, where, okay, maybe it just might be moisture, not necessarily termites, but you know what? That buyer or even the buyer's agent is going to start racing through their head. Oh, wait, there's a huge issue here. And then dollars just keep on coming down when it comes to that client. So is that pretty much what you're telling people to do?
Absolutely. And it's funny because when you mention that, one of the things I love doing a pre-listing inspection. That is one of the best ninja moves out there that you can do. I have a few non-negotiables for people that work with me. One is you're definitely going to do a pre-listing inspection. Number two, you're going to have a professional photographer. Number three, you're going to work with either a real estate attorney or a title company. Everything else, I'm fine going back and forth on with you. If you want to do your own staging, fine. If you want to put in some new landscape, I don't care. But those are three non-negotiables. And the reason I'm so serious about that is one of the biggest things that I've noticed buyers agents use as a negotiation lever against sellers is the inspection report. When you walk in and they get done with their due diligence and their inspector hands you a phone book worth of stuff that is, hey, we didn't know about all this stuff. We're going to need all this money off the top of the cost. And it's interesting because by doing a pre-listing inspection, you're doing a couple of things. Number one, you're able to address all of these things before the buyer's inspector even sees it, which is just a huge benefit. But the second thing you're doing is I advise my people whenever they have showings to literally hand them not version one, but version two of that pre-listing inspection. Because typically an inspector will come out and they'll do a free re-inspect. When you fix all the things that they noted on their list, they'll come out and they'll give you a clean inspection report or clean enough. For example, if the water heater is at the end of its life, you're not going to fix it, but that's okay. You put that in the inspection report for two reasons. Number one, it establishes honesty and integrity right off the bat. So where every other home seller out there is trying to hide all of the warts and hide all of the flaws with their house, you're different. You're saying, listen, I don't expect that you're dumb enough to believe that my house is perfect after 40 years. So I'll tell you what, here's everything that's wrong with it. I fixed most of it. There's a few things in there and it's been reflected in the price. So that way, after the offer's made, they come, they do their inspection. If they ask for money off because of the same thing that was already on the inspection report, you get to play the whole cognitive dissonance cards. Hold on a second, Mr. Buyer. I showed you this on day one and you still made the offer at this. So why are we doing this now? It is such a giant counter to any kind of due diligence negotiation they could bring that it's probably one of the best ROIs you could get is by getting a pre-listing inspection.
Yeah, I would agree. And some people will, in fact, that's what one of the things we do. Some people that decide to turn it down is that I've had is because they're like, hey, we just want to get it on the market ASAP because they're in a certain situation. I'm like, listen, we can do that, but understand that what you're doing is you're hurting yourself. So
Yep.
unless you can't wait for at least a week or two, then fine, we'll do that. But please understand that you're doing yourself a big disservice.
Well, Omar, let me
So,
ask you, because I know how I feel about it. How do you feel is after you've done all your work, you've hustled, you've got buyers coming at multiple buyers coming at them, and you select the best one, and you get all the way through the due diligence process, only to find out there's a giant flaw that they never told you about that you would have known about if they had had pre-listing inspection. It puts you in a bad position.
oh, it puts me in a horrible position because now the buyer's agent thinks that I was lying because I was in cahoots with the
Exactly.
seller.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
So it's almost one of those things where if you're a new agent or you're a pro agent, I don't care. I can tell you that sometimes it's okay to push back against a seller and tell them for their own good, listen, we have to do this, or I'm not able to represent you in because not in good faith, not with a clear conscience. I can't attest to the quality of this house unless I know for sure. That usually will get them to come around in my experience. But also I found that just by saying, listen, and this is how we stop them from coming at you with discounts, they usually really perk up about that. But yeah, it's good for us too as agents, because now I know, hey, this house is what I say it is. And I'll be really surprised to find out if your inspector finds something that ours didn't.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about pricing. So now we talked about the inspection. Now we talked about trying to get rid of, trying to fix as much as you possibly can so we can get the best price. Now, when it comes to pricing, how to price a home with confidence using the same logic a top agent uses? What do you, when you speak to your clients, how do you guide them with that?
I'll tell you, I'll preface this by saying you've probably got more experience in your pinky than I got my whole body on that. So I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. So what I will start with, there is a huge disconnect out there for what actually moves a house. And the first thing is a lot of sellers believe, how pretty are the pictures? How many people can you tell about this? What does your social media look like? Do you do a 3D tour? Folks, I'm here to tell you that matters not. It doesn't matter a hill of beans.
You forgot to include, actually, you know what? I was about to say you forgot to include open houses, but I will say this year, this is probably the first year we've sold so many properties. We've had 6 homes sell within open houses. And that's
Oh,
never usually, if you sell within an open house, that's 1%
I
of the
can't wait to
odds of
show
you
you my
selling.
strategy on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So go
I
ahead.
got an open house strategy that I think you're going to. Let's get to pricing first, and then we'll get into open houses. But pricing, we've been trained by Amazon right now to comparison shop. That's all we do as human beings. We comparison shop. If your price isn't exciting, you're not even going to get a click. If your price, if you're priced $50,000 above everybody else in your neighborhood, buddy, you better have a gold plated pool by a guy by gold, and you're selling to a guy who's infatuated with gold. You better have something incredible about that house, because if you think you're charging 50 grand more because you personally built the deck out back and it took you 2 weekends and your Uncle Bob died the weekend after and your blood, sweat, and tears, I'm sorry, nobody cares. If you're selling that house for 50 grand more because your kid built that tire swing, nobody cares about your dumb kid. I'm sorry. The reality here is there is one thing and one thing that matters, and it's price. And if you do not nail that, so what we do here in Brevard County, and again, I don't know how it works everywhere else, strategic underpricing, and it works great. Now, I'm not saying slash it in half and create a circus. I say a strategic underpriced by about 5 to 10% with the knowledge of this. And this is an uncomfortable discussion that, again, doing the Omar truth thing here, you have to tell people, hey, Mr. Seller, bad news, you don't get to decide what your house is worth. Worst news, I don't get to decide what your house is worth. The worst news, the collective entity known as the market, consisting of free buyers, decide what your house is worth. The guy who writes the check for your house is the only one out there who's going to tell you what your house is worth. So the best thing you can do is to get as many of those people in the front door as possible, let them fight it out. And through that strategic underpricing, you're going to get more interest than you naturally would have had if you priced right on the money. And now you've created some urgency, some scarcity around it, because people know it's a deal, and they're going to start putting things in their agreements like escalation clauses, where they're going to start bidding the home price of your home up. And that's how Liz and I actually ended up getting above 100% list to sold price ratio, because almost all of our homes were the result of a multiple offer process. So one of the other hacks on that, getting into open house, which is great, is a lot of people will be very open on their open house. They will have it open for 8 hours a day, and they'll have circus clowns and tents and all kinds of crazy stuff. Man, I'm telling you right now, if you ever have to open up a bar, one of the best ways to get a line outside of your bar is to put a velvet rope across the door and make it exclusive. It's human psychology. The place where human beings want to be the most is where they're not welcomed. I don't know what it is, but that's how it is. We do 2 hour literal circus open houses. And the first weekend, we build all this hype. We circle dial around the home. We invite all the neighbors for a night before, neighborhood exclusive. They tell all their friends. The next day, it's 2 hours. And there's arguments in the driveway. There's people fighting over for parking. And I've done that, and I've walked out of an open house once, and I just happened to look over, and there's a lady writing an offer to purchase on her steering wheel because she saw 7 other couples in that house while she was in there, rubbing elbows, fighting for space to take photos. And by spiking that social proof, by spiking that consumer psychology of, holy crap, all these other people want this thing. It must be valuable. It really spikes the value. So there is a way to hack an open house where it actually will produce for you.
No, you hit a lot of good points, especially with the underprice. And we don't call it underpricing. What we do is like what we're doing is we're future gauging. Because
Mm,
and especially now with what's going on with the market
yes.
right now is in a very special place. It's one of those where I've never been in a market like this. It's hard to gauge as far as the market goes, but people are still buying no matter what. One thing I've always
Mhm.
learned, people make money no matter what markets we're in, right?
Yeah.
So I always tell people, listen, what we need to do right now is what you just did. We bring up the houses that are on the market now. We bring up the ones that sold. Look at what's going on. Like, we have to future gauge this because you're 100% correct. I tell everybody all the time, understand that the real estate market is made by the consumer, not the seller. By any means, you need to understand that it's the buyer that sets this market. And even though sellers obviously think they always do, but that's not the
Yeah.
and you said it spot on. Everything so far that you said has been absolutely amazing. All right, so when it comes to that, what are the most common mistakes sellers make that accidentally cost them thousands, would you say, that you've dealt with? Even after you sat down, you talked to them and you said, listen, here's our foolproof plan. What do you still see some of the FSBOs doing that you're like, come on, I just told you not to do that?
Yeah, yeah. Typically, this is why we have this hard rule in our program now that says, listen, by working with us, you either agree to at least do professional photos, at least have a pre-buyer's pre-listing inspection, and you promise to work with a legal team that's licensed. If you try to do any of that DIY, we've seen that end in disaster so many times. In fact, here's another thing, and it's funny because I sit here and I say all these things like, don't list for sale by owner because you're going to lose money and you're going to fail and holy smokes, you're going to get sued. It's not that, but it's like, imagine if you're getting on an airplane with your family to go on vacation and you overhear the pilot say, I never went to flight school, but I watched some YouTube videos last night. So I think I can figure this out. You're not getting on that darn plane, man. I know I'm not. But this is the same thing. A lot of people think that selling their home by owner is just something they could just cobble together from a bunch of different information sources. So when they do it and they fail, it's yes, of course, no wonder you fail. It's not that flying a plane is necessarily the most complex thing in the world. It's not that driving a car is the most complex thing in the world. But if you don't have a framework of education on how to start the engine, how to make sure that you keep your wings level, how to make sure you hit the right airspeeds, yes, then things can go very bad very fast. And this is the analogy I used to teach people when you're selling on your own. There's so many things that people just assume that they could figure out. Yeah, I know all those. I know the documents are all very standard and I could just download them from my local real estate bar and I can do all that. Sure, I guess you can. I guess you could learn how to pull your own teeth by watching YouTube, but should you? Or should you go to a dentist? So what I tell people is if they absolutely can't commit to that, then just let me know, be honest with me. And I'm just going to introduce them to a real estate agent that I've already negotiated the rates down. So either way, they sell on their own or they sell with a licensed agent, they're still going to save thousands, but one path, they're doing pure DIY. The second path, they're still getting agent representation. It's just this agent, because this person has gone through my course, they now appreciate all the hard work a real estate agent does, but B, appreciate the fact that they're going to get a very pro experience. They have no qualms about paying a real estate agent. And I think that's one of the biggest reputation struggles that we struggle with. I don't know about you, Omar, but one of the things that I constantly had to defend my value. What am I bringing to the table? Why do I get those percentage points? And by having people walk a mile in a real estate agent's shoes and say, okay, fine, you're going to do this by yourself, right on. Here's all the things you have to do. And they're like, holy crap, this is actually work. I'm like, yeah, it's actually work, man. And all of a sudden, now that money that they see is going out the window, they realize they're not throwing money away. They're buying their time back. They're buying their safety back, their security back. There's a lot of ways that homeowners can lose money, and most of them are through self-inflicted wounds, not doing the pre-listing inspection, or maybe it's putting money into remodeling projects that don't have a good ROI. Worst case scenario is they try to DIY the legal side of it, and they end up getting sued up to 4 years after they close, which is just a nightmare scenario.
Very good points once again, man. And it's funny, it came down to we had some newer agents. And one thing we're always trying to do is we're always trying to evolve within the company. We're trying to be ahead because now what I'm finding out is that, and I'm sure you probably are as well. Before we were in the information age, now we're in the age where people are like, no, tell me how to do it faster.
Mm,
I want to know how to fly this plane within 8 hours by the time I get done.
Yeah.
So what we're doing now is we're trying to create everything that we do. We're trying to create it to when we're sitting with the consumer, sitting with the agent, whoever it is that wants to join our team. We're like, hey, listen, here we go. Here's our 30, 60, 90. Now what we've done with the consumer is we built out a system because now when it comes to commissions, we're like, all right, listen, you want to pay us 2% commission? Not a problem. We're going to show you how much we're going to be making from that. And then this is how much marketing is going to go into it. And we just put it right there down the road. So here it is. This is how much that at 2%. And we have a percentage on there. This is how much, let's say 12% of whatever we make that is going to go towards marketing. So here you go. At 2.5%, now that goes up a little bit and vice versa. So what we're doing is we're giving them the menu, like you select. How do you want this done? Because we can go ahead and do this and this for you and make it so much easier. Or if you want it done to where, I want a discount. Hey, you want the Walmart version? We can give you that, but you're also going to be paying for it. So that's something now that we've catered to because we're getting to the point where, especially with the new rules that just hit Florida, we're like, okay, you know what? We can help you out any way that we possibly can because we don't want to say no to business. But at the same time, understand that we're also going to give you, we're still going to give you professional service, but our services will be limited depending on what you want to choose.
That's really clever. I love that. See, and the variation I've heard on that one before is just saying, fine, yeah, if you want to pay 2%, that's cool. As long as you cover all of the marketing spend, I'll give you the photographer's number, all that stuff. And it sounds kind of like what you're saying is, I'll work with you. I'll work with you, whatever you want. It's totally up to you though, how you appear to hit the market. Because 2%, you can't afford the best photography. You can't afford all these things that do matter. You just simply, there's not enough money left over at the end of the day after paying Uncle Sam, after paying the broker. What have you got left? So yeah, that's actually, I love that. That's a super clever way to do that.
Thank you. Thank you. Last question I have for you. So
Yeah.
if you could just, if you could leave just one deed behind, one action, one mindset, or even a lesson for anybody listening today, real estate professionals, or even an entrepreneur, what would that be?
Oh man, do not be afraid to fail. And I mean that in all areas of your life. So my ethical failure that I almost went down that path where I made that deal with the devil, that took me from where I was, where I thought I was happy. I thought I was successful because I'm just stacking commission checks one after the next. Life was interesting. I'll say that. And I look at where I am today, where I literally live a miracle every day. I have the most beautiful family. I have the most beautiful existence. I want for nothing. And I think so. Those failures helped me get here. Failing at companies, how much we just learned so much more by failing than we do from our successes. Every time I had a success, I have this very ugly part of my personality that gets arrogant. And I think, oh, that's because I'm awesome. That's because I'm Tim Street. Of course I did it. What an idiot I am. Because you want to get humbled really quick, start talking that way. Start believing that. Start acting like you know what's going on. Because guess what? You don't. The only thing we can do in this life is understand that we are on a path. That path's been written, and all we can decide is what kind of person are we going to be on that path. I could have no more selected my destination where I am today than I could solve algebraic and quantum physics equations for you right here on the spot, which is to say I could not. But here I am. So the real thing here for me is just be a good person, be somebody that your kids are going to love, be the person your dog thinks you are, a thing. And I think that's where real happiness is going to come from.
I love that, man. That was a what a great piece of advice. Really love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for Tim. It was absolutely amazing having you on our show. And you gave some amazing information and some great advice as well. So guys, listen, we have all of Tim's contact details below. Make sure you follow him on social media. I did. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel. I did. So make sure that you follow this guy, especially for some great pointers. All right. So listen, action builds empire. Stay focused, stay hungry, and sometimes you just got to give life a little bit of whammo. My name is Omar Andreasen. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Mr. Deed podcast show. Have a blessed one. This is Omar Andreasen signing off and reminding you that success in real estate and in life is built one deed at a time. Until next time, keep it real, stay sharp, and don't forget to give life a big whammo and keep moving forward.